everyone. My name is Maria, and I'm a project advisor at Advisicon. Today, what we get to talk about is the best practices of building planner boards in Planner. So let's get started. So, our topics today are what's new with Planner, kind of looking a little bit at what's changed since the last time we've covered this topic. We'll also be looking at the best practices for building a planner board, what you need to be doing in order to have the best experience with Planner. After that, we're going to take a quick peek at using Planner as a project manager. So that's going to tie in with the best practices there. But after that, we'll be talking about managing tasks with Planner. There's been a lot of great changes since we've talked about this last. And so we'll get to touch on what's changed recently and what we get to do now versus what we didn't get to do earlier. Little bit about myself. I'm a project advisor at Advisicon, so I do everything from project management, a little bit of development. I do trainings, as you can see. I have experience managing projects in IT, software development, project online, amongst other things. I've been doing training for quite a while now. I'm also a Microsoft certified professional in Microsoft Project and Project PPM. I'm an Office 365 consultant. I've helped clients get the whole Office 365 suite implemented in their company, as well as I do business analysis and process improvement. All righty, let's just jump right into it. So, best practices for building a planner board. So, Planner we have here is a great tool for the project managers that want to be keeping track of the high level tasks. They need to know what's getting done, when, and what the progress is. But they don't necessarily need to be tracking the nitty gritty of hours, at what percent allocation is the resource. They may not necessarily need to see what specific day that resource is getting that work done. They just need to know that it's getting done and they are on the ball with it. So, when you're building a planner board, there are three things that you need to be considering when building it. First off, it's pretty simple. Keep it all simple. The simpler you are, the easier it is to track your planner board. While you adding a lot of detail can be beneficial to a point, having too much detail can clog up your planner board and make it very hard to track all of the tasks that you have assigned out to multiple different people. So, keeping it simple and down to the core details of each task is very important. And also trying not to build too many boards or too many buckets. When you have a lot of buckets in your planner board, it can clog things up and make it hard to find tasks assigned to different people. Next is a little contradictory, but it is adding detail. Adding the relevant detail to a task allows for users to know exactly what they need to do without having to schedule a meeting or come and find you in the office or ping you now that we're all working from our homes. After that, it's utilizing all of the features, which is phenomenal. Getting to utilize all of the features there's now you have teams, we have to do there's a lot of different tools out there that are now available to us. So with all of these features now that we have available, you can have an easier experience working with Planner and getting others to use Planner to update their tasks and everything that they've been doing. So I'm just going to jump right into it. I talked a little bit about how we're going to be touching on what's new with Planner. Well, since we've done the video before, there we have had a lot of additional integration with To Do and Microsoft Teams. I'm just going to pull over Teams here. Planners have a lot more integration in Teams now than it did originally. Planner can be added as a tab to a Teams channel. It can be added as a tab to multiple Teams channels. You can have planner boards specifically dedicated for each team that you have in Microsoft 365 Teams. And what I mean is if I jump to the planning board here, we can see that project planning is a planner board within the channel. And so we're going to take a little better look at this planner board in just a moment. The one thing I want to point out to you first is that the little notification that comes up on the top of the planner board, the fact that they've renamed Planner in Teams to Tasks by Planner and To Do. So Planner is turning into tasks when it comes to Teams. So Tasks is a feature that's going to be allow users to better manage and track the tasks assigned to them. So this combines with To Do. You get all of the things that are assigned to you, and we'll take a look at that in just a moment. But before we move on to there, I'd like to point out that the planner board that we have here. So we have all of the functionality that you would get in your planner board, all available here right in Microsoft Teams. And this is not restricted to this one channel. We can have this planner board in multiple different channels. So if I jump to development here and I click this project planning tab, we'll see the exact same planner board here that we just saw in the planning channel. So you can have one planner board across multiple different channels, which is great if you're tracking different phases. For example, if we look over here at the channels for this specific project management teams demo, we'll see general, planning, development, testing, and deployment. All of these are different phases of a project, and this is one of the ways that we recommend our clients put together their teams and their channels. So it depends on the client, but this is the standard best practice where you have it separated out per phase. So you can see here we've got all of these different phases, and we don't have to have different planner boards for the different phases. Instead, we can have one planner board for the entire project, but it is accessible throughout all of the channels as they're tracking the phases. Additionally, so I'm going to point over here to the left navigation. We've got tasks by planner and to do. So this tool allows each user to track their daily tasks. And we're going to come back to this in just a second, but I also wanted to point out this is a new feature from when we last touched on this. Now we get to jump into the planner board itself. So I'm going to open up Planner. So if you'll remember here, we have the Planner Hub. This is where you can access all of your planner boards available to you. What we're going to go ahead and do is jump to Project Planning. It's in my favorites here. And the reason, how it's been added to my favorites is this little star. So if I had unchecked this right here, you can notice over here in my favorites that Project Planning is now no longer in my favorite section. I'm going to go ahead and add that back for ease of access. Here we have a developed planner board. And the biggest thing to think about is those three details I pointed out earlier, keeping it simple, adding detail, and using all of the functionality here. So what we have here for this specific type of project is each bucket. So we have a backlog bucket. We have your phase one, phase two, phase three, and phase four. Oops, move one of those over here. Phase four. And even this is a little big. Notice I have to scroll over to realize that there's a different bucket over there. Now, this will depending on your screen resolution. For those of you who have a better screen resolution, you might actually get to see all of them in one screen. Either way, you want to try and avoid having too many buckets, because if you have too many buckets and you have to scroll, it can be really easy to lose different tasks, especially if they're not the ones that are assigned to you. So, as a project manager, separating out per phase of the project is a great way to keep everything well organized. Additionally, you could have, to limit it even more, you can just have a backlog bucket or a to do bucket or a backlog and a to do bucket, keeping things simple and maybe a little longer. But even if it is a little longer going down, the nice thing is whenever you complete a task, let's say I've completed my requirements gathering session, it'll hide at the bottom. So now it's no longer visible because that's marked as complete. So we can see right now I've exposed them, but if I collapse this, the completed items are no longer visible, which can help better the view of what you're seeing. So that's kind of what I mean by keeping it simple, is trying to keep the buckets down to basics. If you can keep the buckets down to basics and try not to extend past your view screen, it's going to really help you see everything and not lose track of any tasks. Um, Next thing is adding detail. Adding detail means utilizing the fact that there's checklists here. So if I open up Customize Project Site, we'll see we have this checklist feature. Now, this is a great and concise way to outline what needs to be accomplished before this can be marked as complete. So right now it's not started. None of the items are checked. If I had actually gone ahead and created my new risk lists, I could mark this as in progress. And that's taking advantage of those features, making sure everything's up to date with the detail that it needs, but trying to keep it down to the bare minimum. If I wanted to type a description, so if I was going to assign this to Jan and I didn't have time to do quite as well of a handoff as I really needed to, I could take a minute here and write out all of the instructions. So the client needs a new customized project site. This needs to be completed by end of week, or if it's going to be longer, then there's lots of different notes that you can be adding in order to make sure that they have everything they need. And anybody who is assigned a task is going to see this information, and then they can proceed to make comments as they progress through it. So if, for example, unable to create, let's say the Jan is not able to create the issues list at this time, he could make that comment here and send it out. So we could say, um, issues list has a roadblock, and then he could explain as to why. And then once that's done, you click send. Additionally, you can attach items here. So it maybe you don't necessarily want to have all of the requirements for this item listed out in the notes box. You can attach a Word document from either a file, you can grab a link to it, you can grab it from SharePoint, and you can attach that file to the tasks. So you've already written out all of the requirements, everything that the person needs to know, and you can attach it here for them to look at. And then if they have any questions, again, they can post it here on the comments, or they can reach out directly through Teams. So on top of that, we can be adding labels. From here, we can see that underneath the assign. So this is how I would assign somebody. I would just go ahead and click the plus button here, and I can assign either myself or Sarah Davis or all three of us if needed to. We were all needed for this one task. And then there's labels. So they've actually moved labels. Last time we did this, labels was over here. Now it's underneath the assigned persons. And we're going to just click the little button here to add a label. And I can customize these labels. The standard is just the name of the color. But I can add items like critical path, at risk, on track. If I wanted to, I can change the name here to, if I wanted to specifically identify items that were late, I could change it to pink to be late. That way I can specifically see what tasks are late, and I get a bit of a red flag with that. The benefit of the labels is it allows you to organize it at one step further. So the buckets allow you to categorize everything by phase or by their status, whereas the labels add one more layer of organization. In this case, for example, critical path, if something may be at risk. So if something has a potential roadblock that's come up, you would want to notify the project manager that this task is at risk. So having a label that's big, yellow, gets the attention of the viewer will allow that project manager to be notified when something is at risk. And then they can come talk to you directly about it and figure out how to remove that roadblock. You can, if you want to, change buckets here. You don't necessarily have to drag and drop as is available. We already talked about progress. If something is a high priority or an urgent priority or something that needs to be done by the end of the project, but not necessarily soon, it's good to use that categorization, because if something is urgent and you say so, and then you close out the task, you can see that this is urgent and needs to be done now. Taking advantage of these features and taking advantage of all of the tools that are available to you will allow you to communicate better to your team and your team to communicate better to you. Because as they update the tasks and you take a look, these visuals will grab your attention. At risk grabs my attention versus just the normal configure project online environment. Critical path also grabs my attention because it's big and red. I can see that that needs to happen by the 12th of February next year. If it doesn't, we could end up delaying the entire project. Um, I'm looking here and I think deliver cookies should also be important. So I'm just going to click the deliver cookies task, hit the drop down for urgent, who doesn't need cookies, and go ahead and put a due date of end of this week. We will have cookies. And then you're done. So the best way to move things around, for example, if I wanted to move deliver cookies to a different board or a different bucket, would be to drag and drop over. You can also, just as I showed you, open them up and change the bucket they belong to. If you wanted to see things differently. There are different filtering options and different grouping options. So this is great. Another reason why keeping it simple can be really helpful, because if you keep it simple here, it allows you to easily read when you switch around how you're filtering and grouping by. If I click the drop down for filter, I can actually choose and filter what's late, what's due today, what's due tomorrow, this week. So if I click next week, I can see I have to deliver examples of the Power BI reports. Has to be done by next week. I could choose instead to turn off that filter by unchecking it and look down at other items. So we could look at all things marked urgent. So we see that delivering cookies must be done. And then after that, customizing project sites. All of that has to be done. It's a very urgent item. If I go from here, I can go down to other options would be labels. So the benefit of updating the names of your labels means you can filter on them later. So anything that's marked as critical path, I could take a look at. So nothing is marked as critical path and urgent, but if I update the priority to take off urgent, we'll see that we have verify project workflow progression. And the nice thing here is I know a little bit about what this is about. So if I'm not necessarily familiar right off the bat with what the task is, having the note on the card, so we can see there's notes, and then we have it checked show on card, allows me to get a quick insight into what this task is about. Having that as somebody who's been assigned a task is extremely beneficial. And as a project manager, it can be a good reminder if you need something to kind of tweak that memory of yours of what you were assigning. Um, but you can see we also have other items here, so critical path and at risk. So you don't have to stick to one label per task. You can have multiple labels, which, for example, if we're looking at critical path items, this would bring my attention because it has two labels assigned to them, and one of them is at risk. And since this item is critical path, I will need to get that resolved as soon as possible. Now, if I want to group this differently and turn off the filter, so I'm going to hit the drop down for the filter. I can see that I have one label filter on. Uncheck that, get everything back. I can also choose to group by different things. I can group by assigned to, so I can see who's assigned to what. So we have Maria, Jan, Sarah, and I can see all things that haven't been assigned. So it's great. I can just drag and drop. I'm going to assign myself deliver cookies because I enjoy baking cookies. And then I can assign building the customized report pack to Jan. And then I can drag and say deliver copy of the project schedule. That's going to go to Sarah. It's a quick way to assign tasks to your users and to your resources. If I click the drop down here, I can also choose to do it by progress. So this another way to set up a planner board is to set up not started, in progress, and completed. Now, you can do that, but it's already included with a planner board. So separating things by phase can be a great way to go about it, because since this is already included, you're adding an extra layer of filtering, because later on, if I wanted to filter by my phase bucket, I can. I can look at just what's at planning and requirements, and I can see that in this grouping. I can apply the filter with the group. So now I'm looking at everything here in terms of what's not started, what's in progress, what's complete, and I'm only seeing phase one tasks, which allows me to get a better view on my project. So another thing we can do is also group by due date. If you can see if things don't necessarily have a due date either. So over here, we can see things that don't have a due date, but what things are this week, next week, future. I will remind you, we're just looking at phase one, which is why we're only seeing less tasks. Labels, you can see things. What is critical path? What is at risk? What is late? What is on track? All of that can be grouped by. And you can see how having multiple buckets can be a little cumbersome, because with all of these labels, I have to scroll all the way over to find my on track. And if I was utilizing blue and purple, I'd have to go all the way over to see those two. Lastly, we can look at priority. So everything that's low, medium, important, I can see that all from this grouping. Now I'm going to just return back to bucket, and I'm going to turn off my filter. So, other tools that are available to you are the charts and schedules. So, if we go up here, we can click charts and we can see the status of each item, what bucket each task is belonged to, the priority of them, and we can take a look at all of the tasks in this left pane here. This can give you just a quick visual on where your project is at. Because if you have anything coming up here as late, that's something you're going to want to address. If you have something that's high priority, also something you're going to want to take a look at. Schedule is a great way to see on the timeline where your project tasks are due. So you can see deliver cookies is here. We have deliver examples of Power BI reports. We completed our project kickoff on Monday. All of that is visible from here. And I can look through the month to see when the next task is. On January 8th, I have configure project and lawn environments and customize project sites. I need to make sure that in the 1st of February that I take care of the administrator training. And that needs to be completed by the 27th. And you can see all of these different items. Technically, this is an extension, though, of the other items, but we also have verify project workflow progression. So you can always take a look here and see if you see if from a calendar perspective where you're at with the project. Other tools available to you, if I click this drop down, is Notebook. Notebook is extremely useful for a project manager and is great to take advantage of because this notebook is not only visible from Planner, this notebook is also visible from Microsoft Teams. So we'll give it a minute to load. This is just the general tab. Every channel in Teams has one. But if we go down to planning, we can see this is the kickoff meeting notes from the, well, technically it's today, but theoretically it would be from Monday. Or not today, but it was in July, but let's pretend it's Monday. And you can see notes for related to the project can be stored here and they'll be accessible to everybody within the team. And they can be viewed from here using Planner, or they can be viewed from Microsoft Teams. So if I was to open Microsoft Teams again, and we're going to jump back to our Planner board. So I have the project planning planner board here, but I also, if I click the drop down for my tabs, I have planning. And if you remember, that's the same name of the notebook. So if I open that up, we can see the exact same note we were looking at in the website. We can see notes related to the project can be stored here. And if I added a note here, got to give it a minute to load. Oh, open it up. We'll open it, we'll add a note here. So if I open a note back in Planner, says this is viewable from Teams. And I go back to Microsoft Teams, that's slowly updating, but there it is. So these notes are visible both in Microsoft Teams and visible in Planner, though it is OneNote's website. And if you opened up OneNote having synced to this team, you'd actually be able to see it in your OneNote application. So this is applicable, this is relevant to all of the channels, because if we jump back to the website, you'll notice there's a development tab, just like a development tab in our channels. So we have here, notes related to different phases in the project can be separated into different sections in this OneNote. So we have pages, we have different sections that are related to different channels in your Microsoft team. All notes can be visible. Channels. So having made that note, if we jump back to Teams, and I instead move to the development channel, and we'll see there's a development tab right here. We'll see those same notes that we just added. All notes can be visible from their channel. And these can be edited from here. They can be edited from OneNote. They can be navigated to from your planner board. This helps for a smooth transition between applications when you're planning projects and when you're managing them. The smoother transition, the more time you save. So, touching again on best practices, it's important to keep things simple. Don't add too many buckets. Don't over add tasks when you can add a checklist. Add notes, but I make sure it's all relevant detail to the tasks. Take advantage of all of the features because there's a lot here available to you to make your project management experience easier. As a project manager, you can access this then from Teams, making Teams more of a collaborative hub for you versus just another tool that you have to be utilizing. To show you how I added the planner boards to these channels, I'm going to go ahead and jump to testing. So in the testing channel, I'm going to add the planner board that we've been looking at. So I'm going to click the plus button up here. And I'm going to look at, so we're looking for tasks by planner and to do. And we could create a new plan, which would then be hosted within the same Office 365 group as this team is. Or in this case, we're going to use an existing plan. So I'm going to look for existing plans. I'm going to click the drop down and you can see we have project planning. So I'm going to go ahead. You can choose to post to the channel about this. Sometimes that's important. Sometimes maybe you don't want to post to the channel. Completely up to you. Once you're done, you click save and you have that planner board now added to that channel. So now you have your project plan available in the channels that you need so that anybody who's working in the project has easier access to them. And then from here, they can go in and they can update their tasks. As a user, I can come in, I can filter for what's assigned to me. So I'm going to click a drop down and I'm going to filter for Maria Fenn. And now I can go in and I can start making updates. As a user, I can go in and say, all right, delivering cookies is in progress. I have bought the ingredients. And put a comment, bought the ingredients. They're going to be chocolate chip. And then I can choose to say that, well, actually delivering examples of Power BI reports, I'll talk to my project manager. And then if needed, I will go ahead and click the, I need Jan's help on that. I don't have access to them, so I will need his assistance. And then he'll be able to see any provided details that are within the task. Another way to be managing the tasks that are assigned to you is going back to tasks by planner and to do. So we'll go back here. If you don't see this task by planner and to do on your navigation, all you have to do is click the three ellipses and click it here. Mine's here because I added it. So if I chose to right click and I'm going to unpin that, you'll see now it's gone. If I click the three ellipses, I can go ahead and add it back. And then I'll right click and choose to pin it because I want this accessible to me at all times. So here I can see all of the tasks that are assigned to me, whether it's through Planner or whether it's through To Do. So assigned to me, we can see from project planning, I need to deliver cookies. And we can also see if I scroll down, my comment, bought the ingredients. And from here, I can apply just the same updates and I don't have to worry about filtering or finding. These are just tasks assigned to me. This is meant for my productivity and then to help my project manager know what I'm doing and what tasks I've been assigned. So they can look at their planner boards, they can see all the updates I'm making, and I'm not going into their planner board and making any changes for them. I'm just applying changes to the tasks relevant to me. And as a project manager, that can be nice, just taking care of the planner board as a whole, and then everybody else just focusing on the tasks assigned to them. I can put an add-on label. I'm just going to do on track. I'll click exit. This also, a little side note, has the ability to assign you from tasks from to do. So if I go up here to tasks, or even just clicking add task here, but I'm going to jump into tasks. We have all of the tasks that are assigned through or that I have for myself with to do. So these are tasks. So I could say I've got baked peanut butter cookies there. We've got another one we can do is write up best practices, planner best practices, documentation. Now I have a task assigned to me and I can track them all in one location. So I have everything in Planner, I have everything in To Do. Anything that's assigned to me, I can go here. I can look at the planned view and see when things need to be done. I can look at their due date here. There are filters. I can look at things that are completed. Right now, I'm just looking at all active. All of this allows you as a user to have a better user experience. Okay, so jumping back to the planner board for a quick recap. So, just a reminder, and I know I've been saying this, but make sure to keep things simple. Don't add things that are extra when you can do a checklist. Add a description so that the person knows what they're supposed to be doing. Keep things up to date on a regular cadence, looking at the project as consistently as you can because other people can make changes, they can move things around. It is good to be constantly familiar with your planner board. But as a teammate, take advantage of the tasks by planner and to do. This is a great way for you to keep all of your tasks in one location and use Teams as a collaborative space for you. So that's our demo. We got to talk about what's new a little bit with Planner since the last time we talked about this. Best practices for building a planner board, then using Planner as a project manager and managing tasks with Planner. Thank you so much for joining us today and thank you for watching. Have a great week.